Welcome, everyone. I'm Sue Barber, author, former IT director for a Fortune 500 company, turned executive coach, and this is the Visibility Factor podcast, where we explore how to raise your visibility and play bigger at work and in life. We'll explore key topics and welcome guests that help you shift your thinking about yourself so you can see new possibilities for your leadership. I'm on a mission to create a visibility movement for leaders to show their value and be seen for their true talent. Are you ready to take the next step towards a higher level of visibility for yourself? Let's go. Today's episode of the Visibility Factor podcast is brought to you by Amplify You, the ultimate program designed to unleash your full potential and amplify your success. Imagine having a personal coach cheering you on, guiding you through a journey of self-discovery, and helping you break free from those limiting beliefs that have been holding you back. That's exactly what Amplify You is all about. Whether you're a leader now or aspiring to be one, this program is your ticket to a more confident, empowered you. It's like having a supportive friend in your corner, encouraging you to dream big. It's about having the career success that you want and creating a life you truly deserve. Amplify You offers a unique experience to help you build the confidence to tackle any challenge life throws your way. If you're interested in learning more about the program, please visit susanmbarber.com and click on the menu item Programs. Are you ready to transform your life and your career? Let's make it happen. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Visibility Factor podcast. This is Sue Barber, your host. Today, we're going to talk about perception management. This episode is important because I don't always think people consider what their perception is, and they tend to just go about their day and assume that everything's all right. But it can have a real impact on your career opportunities, so I thought we should dive into it. So at a basic level, your perception is how people in your organization view your leadership and your work and how you're doing with your team. We used to say all the time that right or wrong, your perception is reality. So even if you don't believe that's your perception, it doesn't really matter. The reality of what other people think sometimes takes precedence over that. So if you're being viewed in the way that you want, then your perception equals the reality. However, if you're being viewed in a way that is very different than how you want, then you have to ask yourself the following questions. Will the current perception hold me back in my career? And do I want to be seen differently by my management? If the answer is yes to both of those questions, then you will need to do the work to shift how you show up so that you can be seen in the way that you want. Having a perception that you didn't realize you had, especially a negative one, can be really challenging. It starts to impact your confidence and how you see yourself. You've been thinking that everything's good up until that point, and all of a sudden you find out you were wrong. You may get defensive and try to blame other people, but that doesn't really do any good because your perception isn't going to change unless you do something to make that happen. You need to accept where you are and find a way to move forward right now. So it's important to understand how you are perceived, and you can do that by paying attention to your personal brand. So some people might think about a personal brand as your image. And if you aren't familiar with the term, there's a great definition from Laura Morgan Roberts in an article titled Creating a Positive Professional Image. And she was quoted to say, "Your professional image is the set of qualities and characteristics that represent perceptions of your competence and character as judged by key constituents." So those would be clients, colleagues, superiors, subordinates. You will see that at times the words personal brand and image may be used interchangeably. But this is something to think about. So if you think about your own competence and character and how it might be judged by others, where do you think you would fall? In a positive way or perhaps a negative way? Your image is how you're perceived by others. So based on what you've done in your career, you may be known as someone who gets things done quickly, or someone who's highly strategic, or a strong people developer. The more you show what you can do, the more opportunities will come your way. We used to say you have to show you can do the job before you get the job. If you want to lead a team, an organization, or a big program, for example, how can you get involved in something that helps others to see you doing something of what you want to be doing? Take advantage of opportunities to show your value and talent in different ways so they can observe you doing it. Doing this well will have a big impact in your career success because they can visualize that you would be perfect in one of those types of roles, but you have to show them that first. So why is this important? In that same article that I just mentioned, Laura Morgan Roberts also stated, if you aren't managing your own professional image, others are. So would you rather let others dictate what they think your image is, or would you like to control the narrative yourself? Nancy Fredericks was quoted in an article about perception in Women Lead Change that says, "If you don't manage your perceptions, you'll face a slow career decline. Deprived of this wisdom is the difference between someone struggling with success and someone thriving consistently." Perception is powerful, and grappling with its frustrations requires self-awareness and a willingness to change your assumptions. By embracing these strategies, you can transform misperceptions into opportunities for growth and success. Now, it can be challenging to turn around your perception if you've had challenges, so it is a good thing to assess where you are. When I lead classes on this topic, I'll refer to your personal brand or image in comparison to a savings account. The positive experiences that you have with others, accomplishments, and impacts that you've had will all be examples of what you might think of as deposits of money. That money into your savings account is a good thing that you can tap into and use when you need it. If you run into an issue or make a mistake, you have enough positive goodwill and or money in your bank account to be able to leverage that. People aren't going to see that mistake as so challenging for you because they know you've done so many good things before. If your bank account is in the negative, you have to figure out how to move that from a negative bank account to a positive one. Because in those situations, you don't have anything to support you. They don't know enough about you. And so they start to question whether you have the right capabilities or competence to do the role you're in. So it's a tough situation. So let's talk about what can be impacted by your personal brand. Decisions about your career opportunities are based on your skills and capabilities, but your reputation and image can play a large role as well. It can have a negative or positive impact on your performance reviews. So if people don't know you, don't know enough about you, don't see value in what you're doing, when they get feedback on you to do your performance review, your manager might say, I just don't think we're in the right place. Your personal brand isn't where it needs to be. If you have a business, potential clients will make decisions on whether they want to work with you based on your reputation and image. So if you're not showing up in the right way, it can have an impact on your personal brand and reputation. So be thinking about how you're showing up in meetings, in conversations, in presentations, or online. So if you have a good reputation and you make a mistake, it's less likely to impact you. Many employees are able to leverage the brand image of their company, but they also can leverage their own image too. So sometimes people might think about their brand image as part of what their company has. So Kraft had a really good image. I was able to leverage that brand as part of my own because I worked at the company. But I also had to think about my own image. So don't always just think about, I have a good image because of the company I work for. You do, but you may also need to think about how can you build and leverage your own image internally as an individual. So here's a client example. John, who had been leading his new team for about a year, came to me and he said, "I want to be viewed by others as strategic." I asked him why that was important for him to be viewed as strategic. He said that his manager gave him feedback that he wasn't being strategic enough and that he was still too focused on all the details. His manager said that it was creating a perception that he didn't have what it takes to move to the next level. So I asked him to share what being strategic meant to him. He shared that people would see him as a big picture thinker. He would have a vision for his organization, build a strong team, and be an influencer with his peers in management. I asked him what would prevent him from doing this today. He pondered for a few minutes before responding and said that he wasn't really sure where to begin. His conversation with his boss had given him doubts about whether he could be strategic and do what was expected. I asked him to share an experience from the past where he had to learn something new that seemed challenging at first, but he kept at it and became good at it. He thought about it and shared an experience for his first job out of college. I asked him to go back to that moment in that situation when he didn't have the knowledge of how to do it. And what did he do first? He shared that he asked for help from some of his peers who helped him to learn how to do it. So I said to him, "You've been through this type of situation before. Which one of the things on your list would be a good place to focus first, and what actions would you take?" He chose one of the choices from his list and shared the actions he would take first. I could see his energy start to change from a person with doubts to a person who was excited to get started. He was confident with the actions he chose to focus on, and he began to see how it could help him. We talked about the importance of consistency to shift perceptions, and if he continued to focus on these actions, it would shift how people saw him. So, unfortunately, perceptions become reality quickly, and that can be for a positive or a negative. So when someone gives you feedback, you have to decide what you will do with it and what actions you'll take. John had big career aspirations and knew that this kind of perception would hurt his future promotions if he didn't address it. He wanted a personal brand that showed people the kind of leader he knew he could be. Over the next year, John focused on being consistent with his actions so people would notice. His manager shared with him that he was seeing the change in John and would be able to recommend him for his next promotion. So it's time for you to check in on your perception. Your personal brand is judged by people each and every day, usually in the first few seconds. As soon as they meet you, they're looking at your appearance, listening to what you say, and also how you say things. Their brain automatically creates a perception of you as they measure you against an ideal they have of you in their head. So what do you want your brand to be? You have to decide if your brand is showing up the way you want it or not. Your credibility and reputation are at stake. We have all seen someone who is at the top of their game and make one wrong move and everything changes. Their credibility is damaged and it will take time for it to recover. So define what you want your personal brand to be and begin, quote unquote, being that person. When you speak to others, use language that shows confidence and that you value yourself. Leave out words that minimize or devalue you and your work. Speaking in a way that is more passive is a habit that you can change by being aware of what you're doing. It's as simple as that. So pay attention to the language that you use, the things that you talk about when you talk about yourself, your work, and your team. Can you change your perception of your personal brand? Of course it can be changed. Remember that your personal brand has been created over time. It continues to evolve with new experiences, actions, words, and appearances. Here's a key question to ask yourself. Is the brand I have the one I want? It's the same question we keep going through because I really want you to think about that for yourself. The bottom line is that this is your story and your perception to manage. Find a way to work your narrative into the conversations that you have and show your value. People that you work with want to know about what you bring to the role and how it helps you succeed. Don't shy away from sharing your experiences, strengths, and what will make you unique to others. It can help them see you in a new way, but it will also help you see yourself in a bigger, more confident way too. Just know that you can always reinvent your brand and change your perception. We've all seen celebrities do this. They find a way to reinvent themselves by taking new actions that shift how people think about them. So start being the person that you want to be right now. It's as simple as that. Take actions that are consistent with the person that you want to become, and people will start to see you differently. If there are things in your brand that aren't where you want them to be, you can always ask for help to improve them. Don't feel like you have to be the only one working on this. That's where a coach or a mentor or a peer can help you, or even your manager. If you want to create a new brand for yourself, you can do that whenever you're ready. So start with identifying your strengths. What are you good at? What are the things that people recognize you for and say that you're really good at those things? What are your values? What are the things that you're known for, how you get things done? Feedback from others about what you're good at, any experiences, skills, or perspectives that make you unique. These might be things that you've done at your current company, but they could also be things that you've done at other companies in other roles. Just think about what those things are and make yourself a list because you need to see them on paper. I've seen other people's perceptions change, but consistency is key for people to see it as your new brand and believe it. Otherwise, they will see what you are doing as a one-time event and forget about what they saw. So how can you ensure that you're creating actions on a more intentional, consistent basis? It will require you to be more planful about your conversations and in meetings so that in time you can reap the rewards. They will see you as valuable, confident, and ready for new opportunities. So now let's move into the visibility action plan for today. So one of the biggest challenges with perception is that a leader is afraid to hear the truth. What if it's worse than I thought? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but you'll never know until you ask. So take a breath and know that this is important for your career. I know that you're hesitant to do this. I was too. But you don't know if you don't ask. So one of the things that's important here is know that this hesitation that's coming into play here is because you just might get an answer you don't want to hear. But what if you get an answer that you do want to hear? It's better to know what you have and what you need to deal with versus assuming that your perception is okay. Assume it will be a mix of information that you can use. Most people are actually so surprised at what they hear in a good way. A lot of people have no idea the good things that they're doing either. So don't assume that it's always a bad message that you're going to get. Ask people whose influence and opinions matter in your career. You can say, how am I perceived? Or another way could be, what is the perception of my personal brand? And then stop talking because we want them to give you as much information as they can. Asking for this feedback at least twice a year allows you to monitor where you are and make changes quickly. The easiest way to get more details is to ask for feedback from people that you work with who will share it with you. You can include your manager, your peers, or other people in the organization who have influence over your career. Ask for specific examples so you can understand what they're seeing in you. Once you know that information, you can then use that to make shifts, to do something different, take different actions. It helps to work with a coach or mentor who will be honest with you to help you change your behavior and can observe you more objectively. So make any changes that you want to address in your perception challenge if you have one. It's going to take time, but let your actions speak for themselves. Your perception will change if your actions include the new behaviors and you do them consistently. I don't want this to only feel as a negative perception challenge. You might have a challenge where you think your strengths are great, and they probably are, but you want to take them to the next level. So make any changes that you want to address your perception challenge. Think about where you want to play. Is it something that you need to do and fix and shift to help them see you in a new way? Or is it something that you already have as a strength that you want to make even stronger? Whatever you need to do, just know it will take time, but let your actions speak for themselves. Your perception will change if your actions include the new behaviors and you do them consistently. This is all about intention and planning out every day what you're going to do differently. Thanks so much for joining today on the Visibility Factor podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks so much for listening to the Visibility Factor podcast. Remember that visibility starts with small steps that are intentional and consistent each day. Be bold, be visible, be the leader you were meant to be. Find us and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. Follow us on all of our social media platforms, which are highlighted in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Visibility Factor podcast.